Up next, Development of a 2-Year-Old by Danielle Noriega, Erin Moniz, Kelvin Galvez, Monica Hill, Gabrielle Thomason.
Good morning, KCR Monster. This is Danielle Noriega reporting live and direct from Monsters Incorporated in downtown Metropolis. So we are here because we made an appointment to speak with the best of the best rehab team. We have 1 occupational therapist and 3 physical therapists who are going to talk to us about the terror child. So all we know is her name is Boo, and she escaped through the portal door here in Monsters Incorporated. As you all know, this is our Scream Factory. This is where we get our energy source from. And when one of the monsters left the door open, she just walked on in and escaped, and now she's here. We don't know anything about her. We don't know where she is. So we have set up interviews to make sure we fill in those gaps and learn more about her. So again, she's this 2-year-old girl. I think we might be more scared of her than she is of us, which is more terrifying. But what we know about her, she's going around drawing pictures, running around, playing hide and seek, and her primary caregiver here right now is James. I have Dr. Erin Moniz here with us. She's one of Metropolis's best occupational therapists, and she got to see Boo, who is a child that we are all worried about. So, Dr. Moniz, can you tell us what you know about Boo?
So some things that I assessed about Boo was her toileting, her eating, and her dressing. So for toileting, she was able to signal to one of the monsters that she had to use the restroom, and she was independent in all the tasks involved with that. When she spent the night, she did not have any accidents. So typically, we usually see this in kids of age 4 to 5, but she's only 2 years of age, so this child is very advanced for toileting. As for eating, Boo used these we call non-verbal gestures. So she kind of signaled that she wanted to eat, and this is kind of an example of demand feedings, which we see as typical of kids her age. And she had this full jaw stability, she had the fine motor, so picking up the food, everything was typical for her age. And then for dressing, typical 2-year-olds we see can put their clothes on and off independently, but they may make mistakes. They may put their socks or shoes on backwards, but we didn't really get to see this too much. However, she was wearing a costume at one point, and it looked to be on correctly, and since she was able to go to the restroom independently, we can assume that she's pretty independent with dressing. She just needs some guidance, and yeah, she's completing everything at the typical age. She's advanced for toileting.
That's awesome news. Thank you for your time, Doctor. So in terms of the social emotional aspect of Boo and the personal social aspect, she is in phase 4 of attachment. She formed close emotional bonds between 2 individuals, which are Sully and Mike Wazowski. The 2-year-old did consider other people's feelings, as evidenced by her crying. She was crying when she saw that Sully was actually a scary monster. She built this sort of trust with him and built an attachment to him, and she just was surprised at the turnout of that event. In terms of social emotional, according to Ainsworth, she is a securely attached baby. She uses Sully and Mike as a secure base. Those are her primary caregivers again down here in Metropolis, and she constantly checks in with them. In terms of social emotional stages, according to Erickson, she's an independent stage. She's just roaming around, whether it be at a sushi bar or in locker rooms. She has no fear. She's all on her own, and typically exploring the environment is normal for a 2-year-old human child, but from what I hear, usually she would look for her parents nearby. She does show self-conscious emotions, such as empathy, and you can already tell her nickname for Sully is Kitty. She wants to play with him, she smiles when he smiles, and all these things. In terms of peer interaction, she is part of a group. She does group play with Mike Wazowski and with Sully, and she does pretend play, as evidenced by her being caught in a costume. She wanted to become one of us, one of the monsters, so I guess she's not as bad as we may think. Okay, we are here at the panel discussion with Boo's rehab therapist. Dr. Gabby, the PT, what can you tell us about Boo's motor development?
When assessing Boo's motor development, we assessed 3 domains of fine motor, gross motor, and visual motor. For fine motor, Boo was able to draw pictures of the monsters, which was very accurate and probably more accurate than a 2-year-old would actually be. However, she was using a supinated grip, and typically by the age of 2, we start to see a pronated grip. She was able to use a lumbrical grip when holding movies and books, which is also typical. She was able to pick up Cheerios from the ground as well using a pincer grip. The pincer grip is usually seen between 9 and 15 months, so she should be able to do this pretty accurately by now. I also assessed her gross motor. Boo was able to run and walk. While running and walking, she had a short step length and a wide base of support, which is typical for new ambulators. She was also able to climb on furniture, jump when she was excited, off 2 feet and landing on 2 feet. She was able to spin in circles, which is all very typical of a 2-year-old. However, what was unrealistic about Boo's motor was she would tackle and climb and fight off monsters, which typically at the age of 2, you wouldn't have the strength to do this. Visual motor, she was able to draw pictures, as I discussed before. She was able to kick balls, which is also very typical. But what was atypical was she was able to swing a shovel over her head and hit the target of a monster. So that typically swinging something over your head and hitting a specific target probably wouldn't be able to be seen at the age of 2.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Gabby. So we have Dr. Monica, the other PT. What can you tell us about her cognitive abilities?
So I went over her sentence structure, her mimicry, her puzzles, and the word no. So Boo is able to say Mike Wazowski, Boo, Kitty, and Roar. She should be able to form sentences by the age of 2, and she's only able to say those words, so her cognition on forming sentences is a little behind. Boo mimics and acts out what Sully does. Mimicry shows that children are learning from their environment around them, and they're able to adapt and learn cognitively through their surroundings. Boo should be able to play with puzzles. She should be able to learn how the pieces are fitting together, and this was not represented in the movie at all. She should be able to play with these. Mike and Sully tell the Boo no, and she does not listen to them. She should have the understanding of the word no, and she should understand the consequences that it represents.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Monica. Dr. Kevin, her third physical therapist, what can you tell us about her communication skills?
3 main things I kind of want to talk about Boo's communication: expressive, receptive, and simple words. Just to kind of go off on what Monica said, basically Boo for the most part of the movie spoke simple words such as Boo, Kitty, and Roar, but she was also able to string a few words every now and then, such as "want to ride on it." This is basically typical for kids between the ages of 18 and 24 months. Boo is 2 years old, so this is typical for her age, and it is also an example of how expressive communication is demonstrated by Boo. As far as the receptive communication, this is basically the ability to process words beyond their vocabulary meaning and being able to kind of analyze the sentences. When Boo was crying, Sully told her to look at the bear. It is happy and it's not crying, and neither should you. And Boo was able to understand what Sully was trying to say, and she stopped crying. A few other things that I kind of want to talk about was Boo did demonstrate a diagonal head turning, which is basically being able to correctly locate and orient herself to the sound Sully made when he saw her, which suggests that she's at least 12 months old. And Boo also seemed to repeat words that she hears, such as when Mike told her his name, instead saying Mauki Kowski a few times throughout the movie, which is also typical for infants 18 months and older to repeat words that they hear.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Kevin. Well, there you have it, folks. You heard it here first at KCR Monster. Thank you.